Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Parkinson's Podcast. Welcome to the Hear, Hear Parkinson's Podcast, where you will hear from special guests covering the world of Parkinson's with a deep dive on the World Parkinson Congress and a look at how the WPC has helped make extraordinary progress in the Parkinson's community by creating space for people with Parkinson's to have a seat at the table.
Hear, 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 hear. We are on the air again with another episode of the Hear, Hear podcast, leading us all up to participation at next year's Congress in Phoenix, Arizona. I am Edgar Waldmanis, one of 16 global ambassadors for the Congress, and it gives me great pleasure to produce these bi-weekly podcast episodes. As very often before, I have my trusted co-pilot and co-host, Eli Pollard, sitting in. Hello, Eli. How's life?
Oh, it's good. New York is treating me nicely today. I'm excited to be here, and I'm really happy to have our special guest today. So let's move forward.
Who is this special guest?
All right. Well, we've got Professor Tilo Kunath. So I'm really excited. We've never had a chance to sit down and actually talk and chat. I feel like I cross paths with you once in a while at a meeting, but I really appreciate this time and your schedule. Tell us a little.
Then welcome in, Tilo. Welcome in.
Thank you, Eli. Edgar, real pleasure to chat, and I'm very pleased to be on Here.
Good.
So,
let me take the major question that is bound to come up from anyone. Tilo Kunath does not sound like a Scottish guy from Edinburgh.
yes, it's absolutely true. It's quite an unusual name, especially for someone living in Scotland. So I'll give you the super brief background. So I was born in Germany. So Tilo is a very German name. It's not very common. My mother is from Barbados. So I've lived also in Barbados, but I immigrated to Canada when I was quite young. And I am a Canadian citizen. You'll hear a Canadian accent, but I've been living in Edinburgh since 2003. So I moved here to join a stem cell lab, a very famous stem cell researcher named Austin Smith. And I haven't left. So I've set up my lab here, and I've been in Edinburgh since 2003, so over 20 years.
Yeah, because then I thought it would be more like a stem cell lab in Edinburgh. Is that, or was that totally?
Your Scottish accent is not bad. Mine isn't that good, but my kids definitely have Scottish accents. They're all born here.
Good. Actually,
so 2003, 20 years, more than 20 years, actually.
Yes.
More than 20 years. That's amazing. So I do have to say that, when I started at the WPC in 2004 to help launch the first one in 2006. And I do remember at that time, and maybe you'll see things differently because you're in the middle of living and breathing in the stem cell world, that people were super excited. I mean, stem cells, it was just all the rage. Everyone said stem cells are going to cure Parkinson's, they're going to save the world. And then there was a period of time where sort of people shifted away from that. And it was like, okay, they're not going to solve the world's problems. They're not going to cure everything. As people I started to hear people saying, they're not the cure for Parkinson's. And then they shifted away from that sort of focus. And then maybe 10 years after that, people started saying, kind of coming back and saying, no, stem cells are going to answer a lot of our questions. We just haven't gotten there yet. So I feel like it's this kind of ebb and flow. And where are we now? What's happening?
Yeah. That's actually quite a good description, Eli. So the first human embryonic stem cells were sort of discovered in 1998 in Wisconsin, and there was a lot of hype. Front cover of Time magazine, and it was going to cure lots of conditions, not just Parkinson's. And then there was this lull, a big lull where people realized, whoa, we got a little bit too excited. Let's slow down and think about what we're doing, right? So we can get into all of that as we're going on, but I'll give you a bit about my background of why I actually started working on Parkinson's. My background isn't neuroscience or even neurodegeneration. My background is embryology. So in Toronto, I was working in a lab that studies how the embryo develops. So how after sperm meets egg, the embryo has to develop, go through gastrulation, and form all of the organs. So this is my background. So when I moved to the UK in 2003, I was still just doing really embryology type work, and our model system was a stem cell. And then after years of still trying to understand how a stem cell turns into a mature cell, such as a neuron, I then started working, applying that embryological knowledge to Parkinson's. And I was very grateful and I guess maybe lucky even to be funded by Parkinson's UK. And at that time, so 2008, you were able to make these same type of stem cells from people. So just consenting adults. And then the plan was to make these stem cells from people with genetic Parkinson's. And this is how I first got into Parkinson's research. And I was very lucky that the second World Parkinson's Congress was in Glasgow shortly after I got my fellowship. So I didn't know much about Parkinson's at all. So I was like, oh my gosh, there's this amazing conference, 45-minute train ride away. So I went back and forth every day to Glasgow, and I learned a lot. I learned so much from that conference in Glasgow, the WPC. And since then, my focus has been 100% on Parkinson's and using stem cells to understand it and potentially to treat it.
My God, amazing. You're like a walking billboard for the WPC. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So in that 2010, how did things change? So obviously you then really embedded yourself in the Parkinson space, because anytime I've only ever heard your name, it's always been about Parkinson's. So I didn't even know anything about you pre-Parkinson's. I've only heard your name tied to Parkinson's research. After that WPC took place in Glasgow, how did things change in sort of the Parkinson's conversation in space? Did you see things evolve and change in the between Edinburgh and Glasgow, sort of the Scottish community, and was there more patients?
So a few very significant things happened. Some of them scientifically. So I learned a lot about Parkinson's. I knew I wanted to work on this protein alpha-synuclein, which I hadn't heard of before, right? And I thought, oh, this is really key. And even in 2010, some people were telling me Parkinson's starts in the gut, and I was like, oh, that can't be true. Right. But now there's lots of evidence that there is Parkinson's in the gut. But this is, about 15 years ago, people were telling me that. So I was learning a lot at this conference. So this scientifically, I was inundated quite quickly. But sort of at a community level, my gosh, the Edinburgh Parkinson's community took off after 2010. So there was a physics professor in Edinburgh named Ken Bowler. So shortly after he retired, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So because the WPC invites everyone concerned, healthcare professionals, scientists, clinicians, and people with Parkinson's, he went to this conference as well. And then Ken and I set up something called the Edinburgh Research Interest Group. And these are people with Parkinson's interested in research. And then he would come to our building, our scientific building, with patients. We would have a small gathering, then they would hear updates on research, not just from me, but other researchers in Scotland. And then he and I and a gentleman, Patrick Marks, set up the Edinburgh Parkinson's Lecture. This is a huge event in Scotland once a year where we have an eminent speaker from the UK, but also globally. We've had a number of American people deliver the lecture, and it's now in its 14th year. So this, again, kicked off because of this WPC in Glasgow and the active patient community in Edinburgh and beyond. So it was changing for me in a number of ways, scientifically, but also in my community outreach for Parkinson's.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. That's just makes me feel so good. People often will ask, especially in the beginning, when the WPC first kicked off, people will often ask, what's the point of bringing everybody together? What do you really think the WPC is going to achieve? Why not just, keep going the way that we've been doing it for years and years with individual sort of disciplines where people can really just talk to their people. And so to hear these stories about the sort of impact and that ripple effect of the WPC, that's not always a numbers game, that you can't just track it with a quantitative metric. So I think this hearing this and then understanding the impact and the reach that you've had with those lectures that stem from the WPC, that personally makes me feel very good. Thank you for sharing.
And you said it kicked off the Edinburgh Parkinson's community. How many people, if we are doing a bit of a numbers game here, how many people would that include as of today?
So for what we call the ERIG.
Roughly.
Yeah, these little meetings, this ERIG meetings, Edinburgh Research Interest Group, we would get 30 people coming, and we would meet about 4 times a year. For the Edinburgh Parkinson's lecture, that's about 300 in person. And since the pandemic, we've always been broadcasting it. So it gets about 800 online. So over 1,000 people engaging in the Edinburgh Parkinson's lecture once a year. So that reach is incredible. So we're really, really, really proud of that. So the last one before the pandemic, 2019, was the last one Ken Bowler attended. So that was Andreas Lozano, the neurosurgeon from Toronto. So it was an absolutely outstanding lecture. If you want to know about the past, the present, and the future of deep brain stimulation, Andreas Lozano's lecture was a masterclass. And it's all recorded. It's all available if you go to the Edinburgh Parkinson's UK site. All of the lectures there's some information about all of them. Not all of them are recorded. The very early ones, just the slides are up, but definitely a lot of the ones in the last 6 years have been recorded, and you can view them. So the number is really high, and it is a lot of US attendees as well, because we do it at 7 p.m. UK time. So it's really good for East Coast and the Midwest. Even Californians will get up early to watch this lecture.
So great.
And that is partially as a spin-off from the Glasgow WPC.
Absolutely. Because patients went, I went, and then there was, what are we going to do? So our first lecture was 2011, just the year after. And it was the eminent Roger Barker, who is now head of the WPC. So he was our first.
Yeah.
He was our first Edinburgh Parkinson's lecture in 2011. He did come back for the 10th anniversary. So he's the only one that's given 2 lectures, the first one and the 10th one. But it was really kicked off from the second World Parkinson's Congress in Glasgow.
Amazing.
I think that also shows the value that we get from the Congress every 3rd year. It's not only what happens there, it's not only what happens when you and I follow up, Tilo, and say, oh, how's life? It's been some months now since we met and then we go sort of on and off with an email every now and then and now, but it actually, in your case, kicked off a whole community.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that's, it's fantastic. Is the least I can say. It's enormous. Has it kicked off some other similar communities in the rest of?
So that's a good question, and you will not. Maybe you won't believe this, but there are now 14 such groups throughout the UK. We call them rigs. So Dundee started one, a D rig. I did talk for the West of Scotland rig. All through England has rigs. So Ken Bowler, who started this with me, used to travel to different parts of the UK to inform them how to set up such a group. So it's usually a small group of really research interested people with Parkinson's. And then you need, of course, local scientists that are willing to engage. But now Parkinson's UK oversees this RIG network, Research Interest Group Network. And I think there are 14 of them now. And in 2010, there was one, right? 2010, 11, we started the first one. And from there, I have to admit, I didn't play much part in the proliferation of them. But Ken Bowler, I know, was traveling, with his Parkinson's, going up and down the country on train to help other groups set up their local community research interest groups. So I don't know what the attendance at these other ones are, but it's certainly proliferated quite a bit throughout the UK.
That is an incredible spark. I'm going to have to follow up with Parkinson's UK to sort of track this history and the community. I'll follow back up with you, Tilo, because I'd love to write that story up about, again, you just start with one thing and sort of see how it grows. I love that.
The Edinburgh Parkinson's UK site does have a downloadable document about the history, and there is a picture of me looking very young, and Ken Bowler, and some of the really first people in our building, which we don't occupy anymore because we moved out of that building. But there is a little bit of a history that's a downloadable PDF.
I must look it up and see what we can do in Norway to copy paste. I think also others listening into this podcast should maybe pause it for 30 seconds and say, how can I copy paste this into my local environment? How can I do something similar where I live and work?
Yeah. I should also mention Alison Williams, a person with Parkinson's in Edinburgh, wrote an article, and two other people with Parkinson's, about this journey, about how this occurred, and it was published in a journal called Regenerative Medicine. So I'll send you the link to it, and maybe you can put it below the podcast or something. But there's an actual article written. I'm not part of the authorship, but I'm definitely mentioned throughout this article. And I remember one of her lines. Step one is you need to catch yourself a researcher. You gotta go fishing, and apparently I was the catch. They went fishing.
That's really funny. Actually, Alison did write a blog for us, and it just talk a little bit about this journey. So I'll have to link to that too. But that's great. It's a great reminder. It's been a while since she wrote it. So tell me a little bit, Tilo, about your other WPC. So you started at WPC 2010, and I know I saw you in Barcelona in 2023, and I can't remember if you made it to the other congresses, but
I have also been to WPC Kyoto. So I went to Kyoto. So I have to be very thankful to Shinya Yamanaka and his team. They actually helped me get my IPS research off the ground. Actually, the first month I moved to Edinburgh in 2003, I met Shinya Yamanaka. In 2003, he wasn't famous at the time, but he was good friends with my boss at the time, Austin Smith. But Shinya was in Edinburgh. He was with Austin, and there was a delegation from Kyoto. And I knew of him because of a very specific project he was doing that was in competition with Edinburgh. But in the end, they decided to collaborate. So it wasn't IPSLs. It was papers in 2004. And then a few years later, he became famous, right? He discovered IPSLs. So when WPC was in Kyoto and Shinya was involved, and of course, Jun Takahashi, I'm absolutely going to go to Kyoto and hear the latest updates on cell therapy. So, and also, of course, we met in Barcelona. So I actually drove to Barcelona from Edinburgh. It was quite a long drive, but I took my family and our dog, and we drove to WPC. Not as heroic as all the amazing cyclists. So there's a lot of cyclists that cycle to Barcelona. And I think one person actually ran to Barcelona from the UK.
Yes.
So we did catch up there. And other WPCs, I've had lab members go. So Montreal, I had lab members go, and definitely Phoenix. I'm personally going to attend the Phoenix WPC myself.
Amazing.
Right. You actually stole a question out of our manuscript here, because as you said, a number of people biked to Barcelona. I think the majority of them started in Brighton and pedaled down to Dover, took the ferry across to Calais in France, and then again on their bikes all the way down to Barcelona.
Amazing.
Next year, they are one crew is starting in Seattle on the west coast of US, biking all the way down to Phoenix. And there is another crowd starting in Toronto, going through Chicago and what, Eli?
Chicago, St. Louis, Amarillo, and then they're cycling over. I mean, honestly, it's crazy. And there's another group biking from Utah. So they're coming in from sort of all over, descending up Phoenix.
Fantastic.
And they're taking
this
letter game to a new level, because they had bike to Barcelona. of course, the bee coming, and they are now doing pedaling to Phoenix.
To
So,
Phoenix.
Yeah.
but you're not,
Pedaling to
are you
Phoenix and
considering
biking to
joining them?
Barcelona.
Are you considering joining one of those groups, Tilo?
I have not been considering. I'm not sure. Yeah, I do cycle. I cycled here to do the podcast, but yeah, the time I may not be able to afford the time. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Probably right. The Seattle group is taking 37 days to bike from
Oh.
Seattle to
Oh
Phoenix,
wow. Yeah.
which is incredible. Incredible. You can do what I'm going to do, Tilo, is, the Congress starts on Sunday morning with the pre-Congress day, but the cyclists will arrive Friday morning before. So if you get into Phoenix a couple of days early, you can meet me at the welcome line with a drink in hand and welcome the cyclist as they cycle in at 10 a.m. on Friday morning.
That definitely I could aspire to do. That sounds like a good plan. Yeah.
We'll have a big party. There'll be drums, there'll be drinks. And we'll get them in, and then I'm sure they'll all be exhausted and they'll just want to go straight to their hotel rooms and take showers.
No, I love it. It's just amazing. The spirit of WPC is absolutely incredible. I always recommend the WPC to any new Parkinson's researchers. That it's just so inspiring and eye-opening, and there's lots of great science, right? Lots of inspiration. Yeah. So it's a great meeting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
how about meeting some non-researchers, some non-scientists?
Oh, I always do at these meetings. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, do I encourage non-researchers and non-scientists to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, with people with Parkinson's in Edinburgh, I do encourage them to go if they're capable and able to. It is an intense meeting, so there's lots of things to do. And especially the Kyoto one, there's a lot of travel. So getting to Kyoto was a lot of travel, and some people from Edinburgh went. No, there was a delegation from Edinburgh, but it wasn't for the faint-hearted, right? So if taking a long-haul flights is difficult for you, then try to hope that one gets near you. So it was lucky for the Scottish community that there was one in Glasgow, so people didn't have to travel far. Some people didn't even have to stay in hotels, right? So if there's one near you, then for sure I would encourage as many people as possible. But if you have to cross the Atlantic, then I would encourage it for people that can be up for this. It is quite challenging. I think some of the people that when they came back, they needed quite a holiday for themselves to recover from WPC, because there's a lot of energy as well. Holiday. There's a lot of energy and excitement. It's not just the travel. It's just like you're just like so much energy and excitement, and you're buzzing, and you need to come down afterwards.
Yeah, I can agree to that one.
We do. I know after last time in Barcelona, I don't know if you saw this, Tilo, but after Barcelona, it had been 4 years since Kyoto because of COVID. We had to delay a year, and I don't know if that added a layer of sort of excitement and then also exhaustion, because we did hear from people afterward. They coined the term WPC withdrawal. And I think because there was so much excitement about just getting together and being together, also being in Barcelona, and it was 4 years for the community to come together, that when it was finally done, people were so sad. And so like, okay, what am I doing now? So they actually coined it WPC withdrawal. And Rochelle Flanagan in Dublin wrote an article about how to address your WPC withdrawal symptoms, which in some ways is kind of funny, but also not, because I get it. I mean, it's you work towards something for so many years, and you're there, and you're just on for 4 or 5 days with minimal sleep, and then you're off, and then it's tough. But
Rochelle Flanagan was an absolute star in Barcelona. She was so inspiring. And because I met her there, she actually gave the 2024 Edinburgh Parkinson's lecture. So she had the short trip over from Ireland to Edinburgh. She visited my lab. We had a lovely lunch. She did her lecture, and we had a nice dinner. So so WPC Barcelona led to Rochelle Flanagan being our 2024 lecturer. I can tell you now, it's not announced yet on the website, but it's not a secret, but our 2025 Edinburgh Parkinson's lecture is Agneta Kirkeby.
Oh, yeah.
She will speak about an update on the cell, and just to describe cell replacement therapy for Parkinson's. So she'll be in Edinburgh on October the 2nd. So that will be announce soon. It's going to be live, of course, in person, so up to 300 people can attend in person, but it will absolutely be streamed. So, and it's recorded and put on YouTube afterwards if you can't make the October 2nd date. But that will be, I think, a really interesting one, because we've had some on-cell replacement therapy in the past, but this was before there were clinical trials, and now there are clinical trials, multiple of them worldwide. And Agneta will, she's one of the leading experts in the field. She will give us an update and also an understanding of what cell replacement therapy is and what it can do and what it cannot do.
Amazing. I have a question, Tilo, because we do have you here for at least a few more minutes, a little more time. What is happening right now? What's super exciting right now around regenerative medicine and stem cells? And what are you excited to? Are you going to submit an abstract for the Congress next year? Or do you have people, doing what should we know?
My lab will be submitting a number of abstracts. So we're mostly using stem cells. So the thing that really people maybe don't understand, a lot of people don't understand, is that the stem cells are a source of cells to make into neurons. And this is what I said at the beginning. My background is developmental biology. So we need to turn them into neurons first, and that takes time. And these are the things that can be used for disease modeling, which is what we do quite a lot of, actually, which will be some of the abstracts we'll submit. But the other thing that you can use them for is to transplant into the brains of people with Parkinson's. So this is what Agneta will speak about. And I think this is really exciting because there's 3 major trials going on, and there's a lot of other trials that are getting big. So I think the most information that's publicly available is from the Blue Rock trial out of New York. So Lorenz Studer's efforts. He is reporting, and Blue Rock is reporting in press releases that people that have received these cells are increasing dopamine innervation, looking at sort of average scans of the people. The trial out of Kyoto has been going for a while now, so it'll be great to hear an update from that at WPC Phoenix. And then Agneta Kirkeby and Roger Barker are running what's called STEM PD, which is the UK-Sweden trial with all transplants happening in Lund. And that's been going on for over a year. Over 2 years now. I think they started in February 2023. So hopefully there'll be updates on that at WPC Barcelona, but certainly we'll hear some updates for that on October 2nd in Edinburgh. And so far there's no major issues. So I haven't heard of any safety issues. And what I have heard is that, especially from the Blue Rock press releases, is things are looking good. Things are looking positive.
Good.
This is all very exciting. I mean, it's been a long time coming. I feel like a long time coming to get to this point, to have 3 studies going on simultaneously, 3 different places that are all sort of coming up with good, it seems like good results. What, just on the flip side, so we find success. Let's say we're incredibly successful. This is it. Stem cells, we figured something out that we hadn't unlocked that mystery before. Now we have clarity on what we need to do to make this impactful and change people's lives. What's the barrier then of taking that sort of to the masses? Like it's right now it's in small groups. So if this is successful, what does that look like? How do we then take it to the masses?
Yeah, the first thing I think we need to say is that this is not being called a cure by anyone that's really serious about it. This is to replace dopamine neurons that are lost. And as everyone who knows Parkinson's well, that it's much more complicated than just one type of neuron being lost, right? But the motor symptoms are largely due to the loss of dopaminergic innervation. So cell therapy is to replace those lost dopamine neurons, which means 2 things. It means that it could be reduction of the use of dopaminergic medications like levodopa, and it should directly address the motor problems associated with Parkinson's. But what it unlikely to address, it won't address things like non-motor symptoms like constipation, loss of smell, any skin problems, and it won't address any cognitive issues that may happen later in Parkinson's. So it's not going to address that. So when Jun Takahashi spoke about this at WPC Barcelona, he was a real advocate about cell therapy will be great for replacing the dopaminergic neurons, but it won't stop Parkinson's. Parkinson's will still be going. So you need a second sort of intervention, a drug, a small molecule, something that stops the progression of Parkinson's. And then he likened, he advocated that a combination of a cell replacement therapy and a drug that stops the progression of Parkinson's will be a much more holistic view that is starting to look more like a cure, right? But cell replacement therapy alone might do, well, we hope it will do miraculous things. It will repair the dopaminergic network, reduction of the use of levodopa, and easing of motor symptoms. So reversing some of the motor symptoms, right? But it's not going to stop Parkinson's progression. It doesn't address the mechanism of the disease. So you need something else to address that part, in which people are working on, but there's nothing that we can point at and say this is the winner to use. But hopefully a winner is found soon, or maybe multiple different winners, and then this will be combined with cell replacement therapy, and then we get something much closer to what looks like a cure, or at least a halting of the condition.
Okay, we're getting towards the end of this episode of Here Here. I was gonna ask for, can we have two exit questions that are already quite light.
Sure.
Can we offer a small story as well on the lighter side, not very scientific at all? Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not been pre-warned of the question, so just fire away.
We have this discussion going on about abortions and when does life start, etc. And there is this debate going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When does life start? Is it there or there? Finally, it is put to a halt by an elderly lady standing up saying, everyone knows life starts when the dog dies and the kids move out.
I've heard that story before. Yeah. I can't remember where I heard that, but I definitely heard that one before. I have a dog and we have 3 kids. One of them will be moving out soon. One of them is moving to the United States soon, to New York, actually.
Oh, very good. That's my neck of the woods.
Yeah, he's going to go play for Monroe University, football scholarship as he calls it, but it's a soccer scholarship for anyone in the US.
Amazing. Yeah. Congratulations. That's a big deal. That's great.
Yeah, congratulations. Good. Let's jump into the 2 absolute exit questions. First one, Tilo, is your ship has sunk and you find yourself on a deserted island. There's nothing there apart from a palm tree and an old-fashioned record player. You see the record player and you think, if I could play just one song, what would it be?
You got a record player that has solar-powered electricity, so you get to hang out and listen to music on your deserted island. What would you listen to?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. During my PhD, I was doing it with this Cuban guy called Cosme Ordonez, who's now in Florida. And yeah, he and I would listen to oh my gosh. Oh, I'm blanking on.
I'm supposed to be the guy who's blanking out since I have the...
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. So Nina Simone type records, but I can't remember any of the name of the song. But he was transfixed and I was transfixed, and we would just be very late hours in the lab. And him and I were we just became really good friends. It wasn't over her songs, but yeah, this is a good memory from my time. It was actually it wasn't during my PhD. It was time in Montreal, just before I started my PhD. So some Nina Simone records, if I could have multiple of them.
Okay, Nina Simone it is. And the second exit question is, You're in an elevator stuck between two floors. Who do you want to be stuck with?
Who do I want to be stuck with? Yeah.
Unless they're dead, anyone you want to have a hangout and have a good conversation before they get that elevator fixed.
Yeah. So I'm going to embarrass my friend in Toronto. So Jason Bredin is a really, really good friend of mine. So when I immigrated to Canada from Barbados in grade 2, he was one of the people that really sort of welcomed me. And we've been friends ever since. So whenever I go back to Toronto, I always visit him. And he's such a huge supporter of my work. He's a fireman, so he doesn't know much about the science, but he's always sending me stuff, and he's such an encouraging guy. So Jason Bredin.
I love it.
Very good. I love it too. Listen, thank you, Tilo, for being with us today and sharing both news about the stem cell and wherever that research is taking us, and also sharing your experiences from the various WPCs. And I'm really looking forward to meeting you in person next year in Phoenix, May 24 through 27.
Yeah, I'll be there. Pleasure. Thank you very much, Edgar, Eli.
Thanks, Tilo.
Thank you for joining the Hear Here Parkinson's podcast. If you would like to experience the next World Parkinson Congress for yourself, to feel and see the change in real time, save the date to join us from May 24th to the 27th, 2026 in Phoenix, Arizona. Learn more at WPC2026.org. This podcast series is made possible with support from Blue Rock Therapeutics.